Hello, I'm Tom Hyer, and welcome to the Aloud podcast. This is the home of big voices and even bigger journeys. Only Boys Aloud is so much more than just a choir. It is a launchpad. I'm going to be chatting with standout alumni, current OBA members, and inspiring creatives, sharing the stories, the graft, and the moments that take voices from Wales to world-class stages. Let's get into it.
This is the Aloud podcast, and in this episode, we have me, Tom Hyer, chatting with OBA alumni and TikTok creator, Dhean, whose hilarious and heartfelt videos celebrating Welsh pride, have captured thousands of fans online. Now, in this episode, Dean's going to reflect on how Only Boys Aloud gave him the confidence to be whoever he wanted to be with his friends, through laughter and the safety of belonging to something bigger than just a choir or something bigger in general. He discovered his humour in the choir rehearsals to performing Sosban Fach on stage and online. Dean shares how those moments shaped him, not just as a musician, but as a person and as the creator he is today. So together we're going to explore what it means to perform on two very different stages, the choir stage and the digital stage, and how the Aloud experience and the spirit of confidence, creativity and community continues to shine through that. So Dean, welcome to the Aloud podcast.
Hi.
How are you, first of all?
I'm good. I'm all right. It's a bit cold out. That's why I'm in like a big outside. Fluffy jacket. Yeah.
Some people might be listening to this in a different country, different climate, and in Wales we're often in the cold and rain.
Fairly consistently cold.
Yeah. But how's life? How's everything going? Like, I haven't seen you for 15 years.
No. Well, since we both left, yeah. It's been more hectic recently than the last couple of years. I've just sort of hit off and ended up traveling the country everywhere for different mad reasons. Yeah.
So can you explain then, why that is? What happened? How did you get to this point now where you're traveling around and doing some really exciting creation and work online?
So I used to edit a lot for a lot of YouTubers. So I started off like editing, and then basically, I had a friend called Schaefer Bates, incredibly funny creator and voice artist, and I was helping him move, and we walked up the Sugarloaf Mountain because that's where we were moving to. He was moving to, and he was just making a silly video on his phone for like for us to have a laugh. And he was like, "You should jump on this. You're funny. You should be in front of the camera." And obviously, years at Only Boys Aloud, I'd been on camera, and then I went behind camera, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, let's see if it's any good." And then about 5 years later, now I hit 900,000 followers, and I'm going to conventions, I'm going to events, and it's a bit mad. It's a bit weird for a boy from Llanelli, but I'm enjoying it.
Incredible achievement, right? And the main thing is that you are enjoying it as well, so you are making a living out of something that was a passion, right? So you're doing something you love, and that's such a privileged position to be in, right?
Yeah. I very much feel a privilege. It's not something that everyone can. It's a very saturated place at the moment with loads of people trying to get it. So I feel very privileged that I'm one of the very lucky few that have made it their job and made it like something that they can live off of. Just
quickly, because it's not I don't know enough about this world.
Okay.
So what does a day look like? You know what I mean? Because obviously when you see your wonderful content, you go, wow, that's so engaging. But I don't know. What's a day in the life look like?
You just sort of. So now that I'm freelance, I don't have the I said this I had it confirmed I was interviewed in a Comic-Con about 3 weeks ago, and my partner in the audience confirmed it mid-interview because I was like, I think it was Einstein that said, and then I was like, on the mic I was like, I don't know if it is Einstein, but it was like he took up like a boring job whilst he was doing all of his science stuff, and he was like, boredom brings out your brain is searching for creativity, and so I don't have that anymore because I quit a boring, normal job.
Wow.
So my normal day is just, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to see what's about. I'm going to go to town. Going to go see some people, go see, just see what's happening in the real world. Because otherwise I could just spend all day in bed on my phone most days, trying to find some sort of content. But I'd rather go out and
wow.
find out
It's
what's
such
happening.
a niche world, I imagine. Like that, there's so much creativity and freedom in that. What does the next few years look like then? What's next for you? What do you want to achieve? You've achieved so much in a short space of time. You've got a big following now online. You've got an audience that loves your stuff. What's next?
So I'm actually really glad you asked that, because
done my research.
As you know, as you know, with like the Welsh of the West End and and everything that you've done, there's not a lot that Wales has to offer. I'm not saying that Wales doesn't have a lot to offer, but as a Welsh person, and you've broken the barrier to England, the big mysterious England.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, right. But like, unless you're in England, there's not a lot here, media-wise or like opportunity-wise.
Sure.
That are being highlighted or being like put forward, and it's a lot harder to if people want to get headshots. Normally they'd go to London.
Yeah.
If they want to go to dance classes, London. Like it's all in not here, and unfortunately, that needs to happen here. Manchester's a hub for art.
Yeah.
Liverpool, you've got Birmingham, you've got. Everywhere has some sort of hub. So my goal now is to help with the platform I have, because I'm very, very passionate Welshman, as I know you are. So the idea is to help make art a lot more accessible for Welsh people, and be able to bring art to people who maybe can't afford it, and maybe can't, and make Wales a bit more of a hub.
I love that. And that's not just, as you said, performing or media. It's actually the arts in general.
Yes, yeah.
And we have so much talent in Wales. We know that not just through Only Boys Aloud, but everything else that comes through, and has always come through Wales.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is a shame that often the moments of expertise, headshots or show reels or anything that is a product or a service, often is a travel down to the southeast of London and get that. But there's no reason why it can't be a hub in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And that sounds brilliant.
Yeah, so that, I'm working on a few pilots, because a lot of Welsh creators, again, aren't getting the same opportunities. So the idea at the moment, which I don't think I've said publicly, so...
Exclusive. On the Aloud podcast.
The idea is to take like a similar format to, like, say, Under Milkwood, where a guy is walking through a town and he's like, I'm and now we come past this house, and then like comedy happens there. The idea is a pilot to be able to bring in Welsh creators of any level, and almost have me walking through narrating, like, and now we come to, for example, there's a creator called Craig Not Craig. He does like retail sketches. So we're like, we come past the local shop, we're going to go visit Craig. And then Craig gets to write a sketch.
Wow.
That's then hopefully pitched to BBC or ITV or whatever. Yeah. And if it hits it, it means it's a lot. We can invite in creators or writers who haven't got the platform that we very fortunately do have.
Yes.
Who are probably a lot more talented than we are. We are just lucky enough to have got our silly faces in front of everyone else's. So the idea is to start off with.
Sounds really
like
exciting. Sounds so dynamic and varied, and sounds like you've got a great bunch of people around you that you've, I guess, carved out. You've met and you've made those relationships, and you've tried things, you've, I'm sure, failed at things and then succeeded, and then you built on that, and that requires a lot of commitment, I guess, diligence and trial and error and confidence to even start.
Well, I kind of learnt that from Only Boys Aloud a little bit, because I don't know if you struggle with this, but I struggle with this. Anytime I start something new, I have to be the best at it instantly. I can't just allow myself to be all right. Like, I can't allow myself to be like, and this is, I'm the worst at this ever. But we all know the moments in like Only Boys Aloud rehearsals where we confidently sing the wrong note, and we're sort of like encouraged to do that, because if we're strong and wrong, and if we didn't, we'd constantly sing that note.
Yes.
So we're kind of encouraged to do that in Only Boys Aloud, to like just
Strong
go
and
for
wrong.
it, and if you get it wrong, then we can correct it. But if you're not, I mean, that's not a great
No, I think
in normal life, but in hobbies and stuff like that, strong and wrong. Like, you don't want to be strong and wrong, like leading a country, but like it's in
I understand.
like a hobby.
In the
or
general idea of trying of things.
Yes.
Maybe, it's not leading a country. Strong and wrong is good. But, where do you think that kind of mentality comes from then? Were you like that before Only Boys Aloud?
Oh, God, no. No. Before Only Boys Aloud, I fell in love with We Will Rock You. I went to go see We Will Rock You with with school.
We Will Rock You, West End Show.
West End Show, Queen.
Fantastic musical.
Great
music.
Yeah.
Interesting story.
But
let's not talk about that.
Listen, sometimes you just gotta let a jukebox musical be a jukebox musical, you know? Not everything can be a Mamma Mia, okay? But I went to go see that, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna join the local drama group. Which was then run by my music teacher.
And how old were you at this point?
Oh God, I would have been
10?
I would have been 10, 11. Yeah, I went into year 7, year 8 doing... Year 8 was when I did... they did a really weird like crossover period where in year 7 you'd be rehearsing the thing, but then September came, and in November, December is when you'd put on the show. So you'd kind of have to be in the school. Like, you couldn't be, and I'm going to learn it in year 11, and now I'm not in the school, and it's weird for me to come back. So, like, year 8 is kind of when I did We Will Rock You, because they did Schools Will Rock You in my school. So I did that, and then my music teacher pulled aside a few of the boys, because we all know how hard it is to bring the boys into performing any
arts,
sort of performing. Yeah.
Singing, music, drama,
And was like, right, if you guys are serious about this, there's a new group starting in Carmarthen, in Cefneithin Rugby Club, and I think you'd be really like it. And I strolled in, and there was Craig, and it was the first rehearsals for Only Boys Aloud in all the choirs, and that's kind of how I got started into. So
you had a glimmer of inspiration from seeing a show, a West End show. Or a tour show, was it West End, or was it?
It was West End, with the big gold, with the big gold Freddy,
So you saw that, you were inspired, then you had a chance to do that in school, and then there was the opportunity of Only Boys Aloud. So it was almost like, it was like 2 to 3 things that happened just before that.
Yeah.
So then, what happened when you went into Only Boys Aloud first rehearsal?
Everyone was quiet. Everyone was like, I don't know anyone here. Now you're expecting me to sing Welsh hymns, which a lot of us haven't.
And you didn't know anyone?
I didn't know anyone. No, we knew like the people we'd come with. So there was like little groups.
Yes.
But it wasn't like immediate. It was like the first couple of weeks, and then everyone was happy to be there. Everyone happy to get along, and happy to bring out their personalities. That's something that Only Boys Aloud was really embracing at the time. Was it doesn't matter who you are, just come along.
Yeah.
And enjoy singing, because the idea was just to get boys back into singing.
And can you compare the feeling that you had when you went to the first rehearsal to the 10th?
Comparatively, the first rehearsal I was shy, which I've never been in my life, but when you are in like,
it's daunting.
It's a really daunting experience, and then you're filled with a room with a bunch of guys who also believe that they can sing, but now you're like, it didn't feel like competition, but it felt like, I've got to prove myself. And in the 10th rehearsal, we were allowing ourselves to just be wrong when we needed to be wrong, and we were all supportive. We laughed, obviously. It's funny when a bum note comes out, but we were like, that's all right. I didn't get this instantly either, sort of thing. It was a lot by the 10th one. There wasn't like an idea of, it's a chore to come along to Only Boys Aloud because I have to like prove myself. It was like, oh, I'm just coming along with a room full of boys who all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was lovely.
So how pivotal was Aloud for you then? How pivotal was Only Boys Aloud experience?
I'd argue it's kind of what got me into doing what I'm doing today, because it was a sense of community, it was a sense of allowing yourself to express who you are. It's where I discovered that I was pansexual. It's where I discovered that I had a voice and I was funny, which it's really hard to not.
But they're massive things you've just said there. They are huge discoveries as a young person, right?
Yeah, the exhilarating feeling of knowing you are funny is like no other.
I still haven't had it. I still haven't had it.
No, come on, we've had a few laughs. The bus rides up to most things were incredibly funny.
Absolutely.
But it was like a lovely place where even if you were, again, loud and wrong, people wouldn't like make fun of you for it.
No.
It was just a lovely, exhilarating feeling.
So what made that environment of Only Boys Allowed different to any other environment then?
I think it was maybe the first time you'd experience a teacher that wasn't a teacher.
Okay.
So in school, it would be like, oh, you can crack maybe a few jokes with the teachers, but they've got authority. Like they're these people, these like unattainable people.
Yeah.
Whereas like I had Craig and Paul, so it was literally just like we come in, we talk to a person called Craig and Paul, who are also teaching us stuff, but also were there to make sure we were having a fun time. We were people.
One of the boys.
Yeah. It was literally just like a gang of guys hanging out.
Yeah, no status, no. Obviously, you knew they were in charge, but they were making an effort to connect with you.
Yeah, and they encouraged you to crack those jokes. They replied with a similar banter. It wasn't like, right, you're not allowed to say that now, boys. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was lovely. Yeah,
and that's quite rare, isn't it?
For a young boy to have an authoritative figure almost take you under their wing and also be like, you're a human. Like it is rare for anyone at that age to feel anything other than you're a kid. Like you'll know this when you're older. It was like, no, you're old enough now. Let's you're a person. Let's have fun.
Yeah. So you've explained how kind of influential Only Boys Allowed was for you, and everyone who we've chatted to has explained that in their own way. And it's so interesting because I don't really have to press, because it flies out of everybody, which is just amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Where would you be without it, though? Say Only Boys Allowed didn't happen. Can you dive into that?
I don't think I would have had the confidence to do anything that I'm doing now. No, I wouldn't have had the.
So did you struggle with confidence?
I didn't struggle with confidence. I'll be honest with you. I was bullied a lot in school. I was like I was the short, fat kid with big ears and glasses. There was a lot of things you could pick up on to bully for, and there's something when you're a boy of that stature in that time where you're able to learn that you're funny. All of a sudden, being funny makes you desirable in school. You're no longer bullied because you're making people laugh, and all of a sudden people in school then also kind of see you as a person rather than like, I'm going to bully Dhean today. And it was like that turning point for me to realize who my true friends were, like what I wanted to do. But also it kind of just stopped the bullying a lot of the times, which
wow.
I mean, I still get loads of comments of hate online now, but I know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because we also got media training in
yes.
Well, we did. I don't know if it is now, but during like the whole TV Only Boys Allowed doing Britain's Got Talent sort of, we were all pulled aside and we're like, right, we're now going to teach you media training, which you don't get anywhere these days.
I know.
Everyone could benefit from some media training at the moment.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing. That's just another amazing thing that we experienced through Only Boys Allowed. And, those experiences are still continuing. They've just been to Japan.
Yeah. Gosh.
So.
And it was like a really cool breakdown of barriers between like language.
Yeah.
Like seeing the boys teach teach them over there like how we do our games and stuff like that, and like this is I saw someone teaching them like the English words for the game to be like, right, this is how you do it. It was really it was lovely to watch.
And I think it's the importance of not just the music, right? Like, we haven't really talked about the music at all, have we?
No.
Obviously it's a choir and you go to sing.
Yes.
But is there not the benefit of everything else that comes with it?
I'd argue. This sounds silly, but like, it's a minor part of Only Boys Aloud for me. The music, obviously, it made me fall in love again with being Welsh. And it made me like it's where I discovered like Callan Lan and like.
And there's a sense of
like
achievement and enjoyment when something sounds good.
Yes.
And you're part of it.
You're
like, oh, this sounds really good.
But I'd say like a large percent of Only Boys Aloud helps just someone fit in. It's someone to feel safe in an environment, and then that music is that sort of through line, I'd say.
So do you think people at that age struggle to fit in?
I'd say so, more so as we've gone into modern media, but especially like since then, I think now everyone's on social media. Everyone's filming themselves doing everything. It's really hard. It's really hard as a 30-year-old to stay up with trends. That's why I don't end up doing trends. I end up doing my own thing online. But like, it's so hard to keep up with trends, especially since now the internet has given us so much access to so many people. It's sometimes hard to fit in, because not only are we given more access to people who are similar to us, like sort of what Only Boys Aloud did to us, it's also giving you more access to people who don't quite understand who you are. So I think it's hard nowadays to find that sense of community, because it can always be pulled away from you. Whereas Only Boys Aloud wasn't pulled away from you. It was a regular every week thing. Almost like a youth group where we learned really cool things and had really cool opportunities, and bettered ourselves. And I think Only Boys Aloud is maybe one of the last things that I would argue is offline that people can like have that sense of community with,
Yeah, and it is in the community still. You can go to your local venue that they rehearse in now, and you can rehearse every week and practice at the highest level for some incredible opportunities that they have coming up.
And there's no elitism either. They took everyone in, like, no matter the level of if you can sing, can't sing. It was a sense of
no audition,
just sing.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? And I don't know, to be sat here 15 years after, we've obviously benefited from it. It's clear to see that. But is there not something powerful in that we've also agreed to come back here and talk about?
Yeah.
Why do you think people are so passionate about it?
I reckon it was a big turning point for a lot of Welsh people as well, to see ourselves out there, especially when we hit like
Britain's Got Talent, after the album, Buckingham Palace, Coronation Festival, Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably more I've missed in there.
We did, those were the big ones, I reckon. Unless you want to do Red or Black with Anton Deck, that was that was another one we did. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You could just list them off, but like, you will meet someone now who will go. I was interviewing the cast of Nye.
Yes.
From if you're listening at home, you don't know it. It's Aneurin Bevan who started the NHS.
Yes.
Michael Sheen played
That's right,
the Aneurin Bevan in a National Theatre piece, and I was interviewing the cast, and I just dropped in. I was like, look, so I'm sort of like from the world as well, because I did Only Boys Aloud.
Yes.
And the cast went mental. They were like, what? We should be interviewing you. And I was like, no, you're the guys on stage. And it's still
amazing.
It's still sort of like a status, like a symbol of status, to be like, oh, I know so-and-so. Did you know so-and-so that was in... You will meet someone every day that will just be like, oh, I knew someone who was Only Boys Aloud. It was like this mad, cool little group that we were part of.
And that is almost, that's like fame in some ways. And that sounds like, people trying to be part of something that's famous, but it's deeper than that, isn't it? Because that gives a talking point. a conversation. You know, there's some boys in the choir who Only Boys Allowed was the only thing they were doing.
Yeah.
And they happened to be part of it when they did that. Wow. You know, to have been on something that achieved coming second in Britain's Got Talent? Third in Britain's Got Talent. Like, what an achievement that is. Not just to say that, but to have done it, to rehearse for something, to go to London, to go to the studios, to, you know, sleep in a hotel the night before, to get up really early. All paid for.
Mad.
Completely free experience. To say that, that's really cool, isn't it?
And it like, that's also another thing that's not fairly regular anymore, is like an experience where you come along and you don't have to pay
for it.
through the nose for it. All the stuff we did, if we had to pay for it, it would be in thousands.
We wouldn't have done it.
No, yeah.
You know, and that's the beauty of it, is that it provides the opportunity for all of these boys for free.
Yes.
And it continues to do that.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
which is mad
special.
in 2025, right? Like
so special, but that's where the importance of, that's why we're doing this podcast, is to raise awareness of, number one, you know, it requires a lot of sponsorship and fundraising to keep these opportunities going.
Yeah.
In another 15 years' time, there will not be another Me and You, because it might not be there if the fundraising and sponsorship doesn't continue. Right? Yeah. So like the wonderful opportunities that we've had and benefited from, in that sense of community and chance to grow and build confidence, will not be there if we don't get more sponsorship and fundraising.
Yeah.
Right? So people need to hear this. And honestly, I don't think people know. How...
No, they saw from the outside. They don't know. Yeah. It's very good that we're doing, that yourself are doing, like, bringing to light, like, how much it actually helped people. And it wasn't just, we're going to be famous.
Yeah, because, like, that's materialistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's great for a quick high. But then what do you do the day after?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No point just, you know, going on reality TV, and after that, then what do you do then? You know, it has to build the sense of personality and the traits that we talked about there, you know, like commitment, and diligence, and confidence. Like, those are the skills that we all got from doing an experience as critically acclaimed as doing Britain's Got Talent. It's not about doing that, it's the stuff that you get from doing it.
Yeah. It was the stories we got from it, the experience, the bettering ourselves. I can guarantee there would be people out there that would be that probably had their first experience of anyone that's gay, or anyone that's, and it's lovely now thinking back to see straight men hanging out with gay men, and it was like nothing. Yeah,
and it sounds so like almost old-fashioned for us to say that, but you know, 15 years ago it was different. And they were definitely, as you said there, possibly boys, Only Boys Allowed, and members in Only Voices Allowed as well, that might have been their first experience of socialising with people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different sexualities, and that is a massive learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that, again, opportunity. Because if they don't have the opportunity, when are they going to do it?
No. And it's so easy to get yourself trapped in a bubble online now and be in the wrong place. Places like Only Boys Allowed allow you to break your bubbles, get a different view of someone's like life, and not get these preconceived ideas about people.
And I think the underpinning of that is that it's an opportunity to socialise for real, like actual human contact, voice to voice, rather than instant message to instant message or FaceTime, you know, like it's important to still be in the room, right? And like meet people for real and have those social skills. I think it's really easy at the moment, especially young people, just like stay inside. And just message their friends who live maybe 2 minutes down the road.
They could just, there's no like, can
there's no, you know, like,
can Tom come out, please?
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I think there's something sad about that. I think parents want their children to still experience and live and talk and find their voice, so they can communicate in a real life setting. And then if you don't do that, if you don't have the opportunity to do it on a weekly basis, then it's only at school, really. And you know, school is, you know, completely free, isn't it? You know, it could be great, it could be terrible, it could be everything in between.
But you're also choosing to do Only Boys Allowed. So like school is forced. But you're choosing to go out and do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And it became your thing, which was incredibly wonderful for at such a young age.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, when we had like 100, 120, 30, 40 boys when we started. I never remember anybody leaving.
No.
Because every single week, everyone would be there. In fact, we'd gain.
It got almost a problem because there was the choir started off as a straight line in local rehearsals, and then you slowly had to bend out a large semicircle of boys. It was really funny,
and that's what we want to continue to see.
Yes,
that's getting boys to sing. That's breaking that kind of stigma that it isn't cool. And Boney Boys Aloud just hit that on the head. It became something incredibly cool very quickly, and it still is. Breaking that stigma and achieving so much for these young people. And I don't know, I've said it a few times, I think it's one of the best things to come out of Wales ever. It's a bold statement to make.
I'd agree with you there. And people still love it as well.
Yeah.
Like the concert that happened a couple of weeks ago where they brought back alumni to anyone who's free come down. Standing on a stage and singing those songs was exhilarating.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh man, this is...
all comes back.
But you appreciate it now.
And I think that's tipping into another point really, is the breadth of repertoire that we sang in Only Boys Aloud to encourage us. It wasn't just Welsh hymns, was it?
No.
No,
it was...
and also Sosban Bach's a good example because it was changed, wasn't it?
Slightly, yeah.
Version.
Well, we sang it like it was a Bond theme. I remember that. We sang stuff in Italian, in English, in Welsh,
German.
It wasn't just hymns. We did "Shine" by Take That.
Yes.
we did a mixed up love medley. Do you remember that?
Yeah, some Bruno Mars.
Mars. It was just some Don't Stop Believing we did recently.
And why do you think it's important for Only Boys Aloud to be singing current stuff?
I think it's also a familiarity to the boys as well. I think it's all well and good to bring people in and be like, here's some old Welsh hymns that we're going to sing. But from the boys' perspective, it's good to be like, oh, we can sing our favourite songs, but in this grand way with loads of harmonies in a way that we've never thought about them before.
A song we've heard in the charts, or their favourite Lady Gaga song, or something, they can do it in Only Boys Aloud.
And it just makes you feel like a bit of a rock star if you're also singing. You're singing Sosban Bach and then you're going into Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah. Very different.
It's I think that, and also it's good then. I think it's important to sing modern songs to then be able to inject our own culture. Yeah. Then, if someone hears us sing, I'm using Don't Stop Believing a lot. People hear us sing Don't Stop Believing, they'll go, oh, well, listen to some more Only Boys Aloud, and then they'll learn more about the Welsh.
Yes. There's something about your audience that is an interesting thing to talk about, isn't it? Because your audience now is behind the camera, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you communicate with a device, and then beyond that are how many?
900,000 followers on TikTok. Yeah,
it's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you are getting, that feedback, gratification, and I guess any other word I can think of. That it's that bounce back, right? Yeah. But before that, audiences could have been the bus ride in Only Boys Aloud rehearsal from Carmarthen to Caerphilly.
Yeah.
And your audience is the boys with you. But then audience then also could be a group of people in a pub, but also audience in a theatre or the Eisteddfod with the 4,000 people, or WMC, or Principality Stadium. What importance does that have to have an audience and to have that experience?
It's very different to the theatre ones that we're used to, more so you than me nowadays anyway. You do get that instant feedback, which sometimes is wonderful and sometimes is not so wonderful. But I think it's I think it audience itself isn't it doesn't change, even if it's in front of you or if it's behind a camera. I think it's important to. I found it's important to be able to have that audience, to be able to, especially in modern times, keep happy and keep smiling through the world on fire at the moment. And I think it's no different to the audience that we had with Only Boys Aloud. I think people had a sense of community watching us from the audience.
I guess what I'm getting at is like it takes something to stand in front of an audience.
Oh, I get you.
Be it physically or digitally, it takes a lot.
Yes.
And Only Boys Aloud gave you that experience.
Yeah.
How valuable is that?
Oh, so no, I get you. Yeah. Well, I mean, we had experience as well talking to cameras with Only Boys Aloud for various reasons, because we had the Only Boys Aloud TV show on S4C, didn't we?
Yes.
And then we had like Britain's Got Talent. We got it was important for me to transfer. My brain's gone completely dead.
Audience, physicality, the physical audience and the digital audience, how valuable. How to have that experience.
To transferable skills.
And I guess it's more about like, you compare someone who didn't join Only Boys Aloud to someone who did, in terms of how confident are they speaking in front of people, you know what I mean? Or like speaking to an audience. Shyness, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of my stuff is also me filming my experiences outside of, like in public, which terrifies some people. They can't pull on a camera and just be authentic on camera. But that is something I do actually genuinely believe I learned from here.
Wow.
From Only Boys Aloud, because we were allowed to embrace who we were. Like, going back to what we said before, we were allowed to embrace if we were, you know, straight, gay, pan, trans,
loud, quiet.
Yeah. It was a loud and wrong,
sporty, not sporty.
Yeah,
love singing, hate singing.
Yeah, it was important to teach us how to be. It just taught us confidence. I think audience or not, the transferable skills of the confidence to be who you are.
Yeah,
was also there. We just happen to have an audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's it. You know, that word authenticity comes up. Like, you know, that takes a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my experience is I've done a lot of performing as different people. Like, that's my job. I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I have trained to know who I am and what I have to offer, and then also become someone else.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally to a certain extent, and vocally sometimes, right? And I did a lot of that, playing parts in shows. And that is entirely different to playing myself. And only in the last few years I've had, like now, I've opportunity, like I'm not playing a character, I'm Tom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To find that authenticity, that took me a long time. You know, that does not, I don't think that comes, you know, easily.
No, and I'm guessing you've had to learn how to be yourself and not just
and exaggerate.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is self-belief, isn't it? And I hands down got that from Only Boys Aloud. And I was, even if I had it a little bit, I was trained at it, challenged with it, stretched with it, you know, like tested on that authenticity.
Yeah.
Like, who actually am I? And what is it that I have to offer? Rather than, you know, how high can I sing? What can I sing? How well do I sing? Or what am I going to do with my life? What industry am I going to do? Like, do I feel confident about that? Actually, it helped you find who you are. It helped you find your voice. Yeah. And helped me become more authentic. And that's what you're saying. Like, to walk down the street and as yourself with a camera and interview people, that's the most authentic you can ever be, isn't it? Because there's no front there. There's no
barrier. There's no barrier of which you said, like a character. There's no barrier of this isn't me pretending to be someone else.
No.
This was me being me, almost to a overly confident level, which is something. Again,
you had the opportunity.
To do it in Only Boys Aloud.
Dhean, it's been fantastic to have you here.
I
can't believe it's been this long.
Yes.
It's been wonderful to hear how Aloud has helped nurture and carve your career and personality to the person that you are here today, for us all as well. The word Aloud is almost a play on words, isn't it? So it's like you can do something quietly, or you can do something aloud. You can not be allowed to do something, or you can also be allowed to do something.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's others in there. I'll forget. But with that in mind, what does being allowed mean to you?
See, I heard you asked this earlier to someone else. I was like, I'm gonna think about this, and I completely didn't think about it.
Oh, I love that. No,
it's gonna be off the cuff, but I guess allowed to me probably means, if you're gonna, oh gosh, is this
whatever you say is right. Do you know what I mean?
You're allowed to be allowed, as in I'm just say allowed a lot. I realize you're being allowed to be confidently allowed. So like, you're allowed in this place in Only Boys Allowed, but in general, the word allowed embodies the idea of you being authentically you.
That's brilliant. I like it.
Yeah.
I knew you were looking at me going like, was that any good? I'm like,
no,
yes.
But also it was just words coming out, and I was like,
that's it.
Also quite surprised by the words coming out of my
I
own
love
mouth.
that.
So,
That's the point of the question, is that it is open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Everybody answers it in different ways. You can go many ways with it.
Yeah.
What would you say to your 11-year-old self now? If you could go back and you could speak to 11-year-old Dhean and give them some advice, what would you say? Pre-Only Boys Allowed.
Pre-Only Boys Allowed.
Pre-finding the confidence to create a career in the digital world and speaking to a camera and carving out your entire successful career so far.
Yeah. I'd probably tell 11-year-old me, you're going to go through a real hard couple of experiences, but the skills that you will learn very soon mean that you're able to handle them better than you would have without them. I'm being very cryptic there.
I like it. Beautiful. You know, that's incredible that you can go back and, you know, you could do that.
Yeah. And probably a shorter answer, be more spontaneous. Allow yourself to be spontaneous.
Sure. To preempt some of those things and just be,
Yeah. Stop overthinking, just do it.
Love that. I'd probably say the same to myself.
Yeah.
Nice one. Dhean, thanks so much for coming on the Aloud podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
It's been a pleasure to have you, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah. Before Aloud, I was not very confident. I was a very shy child, and I was bullied, actually. But with the confidence that I got from joining Aloud, from going into those rehearsal rooms, from the laughter, from the banter, from everything that I learned, and the applicable skills that actually you don't even realise that you're earning from joining Aloud, I was able to find out who I was, who I am, and be who I am today through this. And it wasn't anything other than the experience with Aloud that made me realise who I am. If you've got a boy who's shy, who's not very confident, who is looking for somewhere to just feel like, to find themselves, to, even if they can't sing, or if they can sing, great, or if they sing in private, Aloud is the place for this person. And it's all free. You just come along and you join and have a really wonderful time. I really wish I could go back to it. But they're recruiting now, so go to aloud.cymru to find out more.